Well, Moscow 2012, you've really built an amazing business out for Goldman there. What happened next?
Well, Putin came back.
Okay. Yeah.
And I took a view, which I was very clear with Lloyd and my other bosses, was that Russia, that it was not going to end well.
Yep.
And, whereas Medvedev was very earnest in integrating Europe into Russia into Europe and civil liberties, as soon as Putin came back, it was looking pretty bad. And so I said, look, I wouldn't stick around here. I'd start tooling down this operation. The answer I got back was, no, it's all going to be fine. Flash in the pan, it'll pass. So I decided I don't want to do this anymore, be based in Russia and do this business. So I decided to do venture. I mean, I was very, very excited by what I had done. I mean, Mail.ru and those other businesses were only one example. We did Tinkoff Credit Systems, which was Europe's first neobank, and a few other incredible technology businesses. So that's what I wanted to do full time. So I moved back to London and started a technology investing platform called CKA Capital with some partners. And we invested in U.S. and European mid to late stage software businesses. We did probably a dozen investments over 3 or 4 years. Our big winner was Palantir. We worked very closely with Palantir during that period. Still do work closely with Palantir from a King River perspective with our portfolio. Amazing business. I could spend an hour talking about that business. We did another investment in a company called Wish, another investment in a company called Qualia. And we, have since exited most of those businesses. Now, I guess my wife had spent 23 years outside of Australia.
So she's an Australian.
She's Australian. And we had 3 children. And, today I have a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 10-year-old. My 19-year-old and 17-year-old, they were raised in London. And she said, hey, my parents need to get to know these kids.
Yeah.
You drag me to Russia, I get to drag you to Australia. It's an NPV positive trade for me. So I said, okay. I had 2 conditions for that move. One was we sell our house in London. I just know, having lived in many parts of the world, it takes 3 or 4 years before you know whether it's the right place for you.
Yeah.
And if you have this house sitting there, you turnkey, just turn around and go back.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just too tempting to give up. And so I call it burn the canoes. So we had to burn the canoes. My second condition was that I get to surf every morning, no tears.
Yes. Yeah,
he thought that was funny at the time, that I would ask for that. It's not funny anymore.
It's better in Australia than Russia, the surfing. I think most people agree with that.
Yeah, no, I grew up surfing, and so I really wanted to, that was one thing I really wanted to be able to do when I came here. Yeah. So anyway, we moved here in 2018.
Had you been to Australia before?
We used to come visit family twice a year. Okay. So I did know the landscape as an outsider. I had made some really great networking contacts, one of which was my co-founder, Zeb Rice, who I'd met 3 years before I moved to Australia. And we started sharing deal flow back then. And when I told him that I was actually going to move to Sydney, he said, "Hey, great, let's raise some money. Let's start King River." And that's the origin of King River.
And the name?
Yeah, where's the name come from?
So there's a King. This was Zeb's invention. So there's a King River in the Northern Territories, and there's a King River in Colorado.
All right.
And King River is Australia's only venture fund that has operations in the U.S. And so our portfolio is 50% Australian, 50% North American.
Fantastic. What a great story.
It is a good story. It is a good story. So, but surfing is something, because on your website, you've got, this is who you are, blah, 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 blah. And then it's got the, ask me about. And people, he's going to say here, what was dealing with Putin like, the Russian winters. No, it's ask me about surfing, ask me about new bands, ask me about, and here's a bit of your physics legacy, something about particle physics, I think, and then conservation of the oceans.
Yes, yeah.
Tell us about those passions. I mean, why aren't you doing any of those rather than, who wants to make a lot of money?
Yeah, yeah. Look, ocean conservation is a huge priority for myself and my wife, Trine. I should say Trine's full-time focus is on, politics, and in that, that's environment, integrity in politics, and gender equity. I mean, those are the pillars of her focus. She was campaign manager for Kylie Tink in Kylie Tink's election. She works for Zali Stegel now. So that's my other half. And I'm very invested in that big time. And so ocean conservation fits squarely into that category.
Our former Goldman colleague, Stephen Fitzgerald, is chair of the Great Barrier Reef Foundation. Do you speak to him much?
I do. We work together with him.
Okay.
I work together with him in the technology side, and he's an investor with us, and we have worked together on that front as well.
Yeah, and they're doing great things. By
great
the look
things.
Of it.
We are in the, I think, called Principal Circle or whatever it's called, and at that foundation, they're extraordinarily well run.
Yes,
in large part thanks to his leadership.
Yes,
and they just have amazing people there, and their focus on the Great Barrier Reef, not just in Australian waters, but across the region, is really important. The reef doesn't know borders, and you really got to think about it. I'm also on an ocean conservation trust in Papua New Guinea, in a place called the Conflict Islands, which is the most extraordinary ocean environment I've ever had the privilege of experiencing. I'm also a scuba diver, free diver, and so I love going to these places where you have huge biodiversity, biodensity, and that's a very special part of the planet that we are very focused on conserving. So,
are we winning or losing?
I mean, without a question, as a planet, we're losing right now at an alarming rate. At the same time, there are zones of conservation that are still treading water and are actually making progress. I think a really important element to ocean conservation is understanding that by protecting zones of the ocean, moratoriums on fishing, you can regenerate very quickly. The ocean regenerates orders of magnitude faster than land. So people mistakenly think you cut down rainforest, it could take 40 years for it to grow back, 50 years. It'll be 3 or 4 years for zones that were basically barren in different areas of the planet. You then ban fishing for the big enough area, life comes back very, very quickly. And the really important thing about those marine protection zones is that the spillover effect into the surrounding waters is extraordinary. Yeah. So one of the things that the organizations that we back are good at is not just preaching about how we have to save the ocean, but engaging with local communities about their existential dependency on ocean regeneration. Okay, I mean, if we go at this rate, there will be no fish in the ocean in the next 30 years. I mean, it will be barren, but that will mean 1 billion people will starve. So if fishing communities want to survive, they're gonna have to do these ocean protection zones for their own. I mean, it's not charity. It's for them to have sustainable fishing. I mean, I'd say this David Attenborough movie, Ocean, is if you don't want to read volumes about this stuff and join an organization, watch this movie.
That.
He makes it very clear.
Yeah. So you were talking about things you invest in that the firm invests in. So let's come to that. So AI is a focus.
It's our biggest focus, and it has been since inception.
Biggest focus. But there was a quote of yours that I really liked. You were talking about AI, and you said that this idea of AI is evolving at breakneck speed, and it's now a pivotal moment where innovation and responsibility go hand in hand. And what caught my attention about that was the responsibility part of it. So can you talk to us a bit about that balance? And there does seem to be extremes with the AI debate. There are those that think it's going to save the world. There are those that think it'll end the world. When you talk about the responsibility, what do you mean by that? And how do you see AI as a force for good or ill or just a force that we need to manage?
I mean, AI is like any other human technology. I mean, information technology has been existent with the human race since inception. What's the first information technology tool that humans possessed? Storytelling. People told stories. And as we progress through history, it became papyruses. It became the Gutenberg press. It became radio, television, internet. So we've all had to live with adopting, and I'm just talking about in particular information technology. I mean, there's also the Industrial Revolution, the loom. So all of these technologies have, a dual impact on society. And so we shouldn't be naive to think that the most disruptive technology in human history, AI, is not going to have a similar impact. And the more clear-eyed we are going into this implementation about the history of introducing disruptive technologies, the less damage it's going to do. We're seeing in the US the guardrails really coming off in many ways. And we could go down this rabbit hole debating what you have to do, how you have to do it. I mean, let's not do that. Let's just say the idea that there is absolutely no thought about responsibility whatsoever, and it's all going to be good and fine. You can't even call it naive. That's not naive. That's abject destruction. One example of many, many I can give you, social media. So social media is a new technology. AI is a new technology. Combining the two has transformed really how we think, how we communicate, and how we get along with other people. Most people tend to stay in their sphere of hearing what they want, confirmation bias.
Yes.
My opinion is this, hey, he agrees, oh, isn't it awful with this other? So we live in an era of outrage.
Yes.
But I don't think people understand that 70% of those messages are generated by bots. So AI being injected into the most important information technology we have today of communication, which is social media, is really, really dangerous. People think they're hearing from other human beings. They're not. They're hearing from an alien intelligence. What is the algorithm solving for? Engagement.
Yeah.
What is the biggest driver of engagement? Rage, not happiness. Division.
So
Yes.
who's going to impose or bring or be responsible? Is it governments? Is it individuals?
It has to be
society standards?
It has to be governments. Okay. So, look, we have a chance to change this. But by the way, in that example I gave you, very simple antidote. It's so simple. Free speech for everybody. Say anything you want online. Say it not anything. I mean, there always have to be guardrails, which we're talking about in Australia very actively. But by and large, free speech for all humans. No free speech for bots. No bots.
Yes.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
But isn't part of the problem working out who are the humans and who are the bots?
It's not hard. No. That's not that.
That's where the government comes in.
Yeah,
and
these people making money on these algorithms will tell you it's impossible. I can't tell what's about. I can't tell who's 16, under 16, who's. It's ridiculous. Yeah. That is very trivial technological. We all have human agency right now. So to answer your question, yes, it's individuals who have to help make this happen, have to help AI be responsible. But in a democracy, all us individuals collectively are part of the democratic conversation, and we shape what our governments do.
How much of this conscience, though, do you bring when you're making decisions at King River?
Look,
commercial decisions. How much of the conscience do you bring to an AI investment?
In our diligence process, ascertaining, are the founders committed to responsible AI? A. B, are processes in place to ensure that responsible AI is being practiced? It's one thing for Google to say, oh, do no evil. Hey, fantastic. But what processes are really in place
to protect? Yeah.
I mean, there's some there, but I don't know. But so oftentimes what we do at King River, we'll go in and we say, we don't expect all this stuff to be there at the beginning, but we say, as a condition for us investing, we want this process to be put in place. And almost always it's embraced. It's a great idea. I know. We learned a lot of that from great companies like Palantir. There's no shortage of controversy around Palantir. Even at the time when my last fund invested,
It's been a fascinating journey taking us from the Cold War to the evolution of AI. Before we wrap, just a last word on King River. Is there a portfolio company or an investment or something that's really exciting you in King River at the moment?
I mean, many. I could go on and on about it. We have about 30 portfolio companies. We have 3 funds. We closed Fund 3 about 6 months ago. We have 6 of 10 investments there, so we're about 60% deployed. Every one of those investments in Fund 3 are really firing. So a lot of Gen AI. We have 3 Gen AI companies in Fund 3. I'll mention 2 Gen AIs, and then I'll talk about another big focus of ours is defense tech. Okay, so Gen AI, relevance AI. Australia's most, in our opinion, and I'm sure we're biased, leading Gen AI company in the agentic space. So it's a global, one of the leading players in agentics globally. Built in Sydney. Now they have a big operation in the US and San Francisco. So very excited about that. It was the first investment in Fund 3. Our last investment we just did 6 months ago, very excited about Replit in the US. So Replit is the leader in vibe coding. And I encourage everybody to learn what vibe coding is. It just basically means any of us in this room can code. We just say, clone Salesforce. Okay. And we'll watch it start to code. Okay. Salesforce. So
there's hope for my mum?
Anyone. Yeah. Okay. So like this whole thing, that paradigm that's suddenly materialized, which I find weird. Why would it just materialize now over the last few trading days, where AI is, a big threat to enterprise software, and all these large cap, mid cap enterprise software players are getting decimated in the markets. That's the Replit effect, or the cursor effect. The other area besides Gen AI that's a huge thematic for us is defense tech.
Yes.
So I mean we're at a pretty existential point right now in terms of a technological race versus our adversaries.
Yes.
And so we invested in a very exciting Kiwi company. It's our first Kiwi investment, called Starboard, in the maritime intelligence space. Starboard's like Palantir of the seas. It identifies ships in your waters and ascertains really what they're doing.
Wow.
Okay, so they're very active on the shadow fleet. Yeah. Fleets around the world right now, on the ships dragging chains over submarine cables, over big narco trafficking going on. It's a very, very exciting defense tech company.
Right. Chris, prop time.
Okay.
Prop times. This is where we ask our guests to bring in something of meaning that's got a story or two attached. What have you got to show us?
So I brought 2. I really thought long and hard, should I just do one? Okay, so this is my...
nail clippers or something. What are they?
This is my guitar capo. Okay. Yeah. Oh. So music's a really important thing for me. I play guitar. I played guitar about 10 years. So I'm a late bloomer, but I probably play every night, at least a half an hour. It really is.
What sort of music? What sort of guitar music?
So I was really blessed to have my first teacher. We lived in Madrid for 6 months before we moved to Australia. So one of my first teachers was a Cuban professor of music, and he does Spanish classical music. So I do a lot of classical music. I still Zoom with him every Sunday night. And then I've had the luck of having a young frontman for a great Australian band. Now it's become a great band, who's taught me guitar as well. So I do alternative music as well. So Jake Jameson of the Slims, one of my favorite Sydney bands. Okay. So I like all forms of music, and guitar is a really important.
And 30 minutes every night is a great decompress.
It's a great decompress. It really is. I am looking for a band right now. If anyone knows one that needs a guitarist, I'm looking for one. So that's prop number 1. Prop number 2.
You've got deep pockets. I mean, people always say that about you, but we can see it now.
So this is the challenge medal that was given to me by His Excellency Ambassador Miroshnichenko,
from Ukraine.
Max knows as well. I'm very engaged in supporting Ukraine. It's one of the most important civilizational moments right now for us in the West, that Ukraine prevails in its defending itself against this barbaric invasion by Russia. And so I've done quite a lot of work around that, and I think it's really important. It is front and center on people's minds, not just 6 months ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago when the invasion happened. Can you believe it's 4 years now?
Yeah.
But that it's still front in mind, and it really worries me that it's just nowhere in the papers anymore. I mean, sure, you hear about this Witkoff guy going and having lunch with Putin and having a laugh, but you don't really understand the suffering that's happening there.
Yeah.
And so,
what's the image on the?
So
medal?
on one side it says freedom. So it's a military medal, and it's the Ukrainian relentless struggle for freedom. And I'd say it's not just 4 years struggle, it's 400 years.
Yes.
Okay. And then on the back, strength through mateship, and the bonds and what the ambassador here, His Excellency, has done here is forge incredible relationships with not just the Ukrainian expat community and passionate supporters, but with businesses and big circles of thought leaders, which he's just done an extraordinary job.
Extraordinary.
Oh, very good. Well, congratulations for receiving that.
Thank you.
Finally then, some quick fire questions and answers.
Yeah.
First thing that comes into your head. Biggest lesson you learnt at Goldman?
Biggest lesson I learned at Goldman. This is going to sound crazy.
Please, we like
There are
those.
many, many lessons, but I'd say never give up your hobbies.
Yeah.
So many of my colleagues who I love to death and I worked to death with have over the years, they've just lost their interests. And, I guess you could say they became workaholics. I mean, yeah, but it's so important that you keep those things alive that you loved when you're 25, when you're 30, when you're 35, because, at some point, that's what matters.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, good advice. Now, Sydney's obviously number one here, but out of Frankfurt, London, Moscow, where did you enjoy living the second most?
London, for sure.
London.
But I lived in London 25 years. Okay, when I lived in Moscow, I had a house in London. I'd go back every other week, so I never really left London.
Okay, finally. So, given your training in physics and in science, what trait or skill that you learned then as a science student and a science graduate, what skill or trait have you taken over and it's been very useful for your career in finance?
The rigor of data. In other words, physics is data-based. So you can have as many instincts as you want, and instincts are what led Einstein to discovering the theory of relativity, and all that's great. But ultimately, to know if something's true or not, you need data. And I think what makes us great custodians of our investors' assets, stewards of their money, is our ability to do rigorous due diligence on everything we invest in. We don't get it right all the time. No way. We try. This is risky stuff. And you're going to lose 30, 40% of your portfolio. It's normal when you invest in VC. But we have to employ the rigor of diligence the way we tried to find the Higgs boson.
Well, Chris,
very good.
We've covered an enormous amount of ground. To my disappointment and Matthew's relief, we haven't talked about skiing.
We have run out of time.
We have run out of time, and it's great to see you. And we might have to have you back sometime to talk about the future.
Thank you very much, Max. Look, it's a pleasure to be here. And those were really, really great questions. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Wow, what a story from Chris Barter. That was fascinating. In a couple of weeks' time, we're back again with Brad Joffe from aparty.ai.
Looking forward
And in
to
the
that.
meantime, I think we'd like to extend an invitation to any listeners who'd like to have suggestions for future guests.
Yes.
Ticker talk@nsx.com.au. Please drop us a line with some suggestions.
Look forward to it.